I like to keep the ball of clay fairly narrow in diameter until I get my ball of clay so it feels like it's centered. And I've got, two positions in my hand. This is, what I refer to as my muscle control. I push on the ball of clay from here. I use my claw, which are my fingers, from here to get the clay to come up. And then to send it back down, I use the karate chop, which is this small portion of my hand here, remembering the high heel principle. Small portions of my hand get better results than big surface areas of my hand. So I'm going to call that piece of clay centered, and now we're going to go into plate making mode. And I do a little variation on my karate chop. I dig in with my knuckle, and I roll my hand out to move the clay out. So with decent speed, and I've got my sponge in my hand so I have extra water, I'm just going to roll it out, and I'm going to just keep doing that until I have the clay out as far as I need it. And let's try one more. Now, I have a tendency to weigh my clay before I throw and know how much I throw. And after a while, you'll get to know an outstretched hand will make a plate that's about that wide. So once my ball of clay is about, an inch wider than my hand can span, my plate will be about as thick as I want for a 3-pound piece of clay. And that's about the diameter I think I'm going to be able to get. Let's test my thickness. I have a tendency to keep my plates a little bit thicker than what I want, and I have a tendency to measure with my hands because my hands are always available and they're usually the same size. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to compress the bottom of my plate with a rib, and you want to use a clean rib, otherwise you get lots of grooves. I'm just going to press this clay down, and the reason I do this is so I don't get S-cracks. Now, if you'll notice, I'm not going all the way to my edge of my plate. I'm going to use that clay for the wall of my plate and for my handle, but I'm just compressing the working surface of my plate, or the part of the plate that a knife is going to be on, or a fork, or what have you. I'm going to get it nicely compressed, and I generally compress with a rib. And I like the finger feel of it, so I will often go in and do a light compression with a fingertip after I've got it, completely under control the way I like it. And then I've got, sort of the handmade feel. If you want to do one of those little whoop-de-doos where you put a little spiral on the inside, you can do that. But save all of the decoration or texture for your plate until after you've compressed it and made sure it's nicely compact. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and make the handles for our plate. What I'm going to do is start off by making a cylinder, as in, all good, technique, we start off with a nice cylinder. So I'm going to scoop underneath my wall here and pick the side of this plate up. And now I have a nice thick wall, and I'm going to pull this to the thickness I want the slab for my handles to be. So I'm going to scoop under there, and I'm going to do a good pull. And when you're pulling plates, I happen to have some pretty soft clay here. You have to be careful about the speed of your wheel. If I go really fast, I've got a fairly large diameter, so the centripetal force is a little bit stronger on the piece, and you have a good probability of sending it flying if you don't pay attention, especially if you have soft clay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pull these handles up, or pull the sides of my plate up until I have a pretty good size wall there, and it looks like a pie dish right now. And now I'm going to determine what I want this piece to look like. First thing I do before I go into shaping is I try to remember to scrape the water off the outside of my form. This makes it so it's not getting wetter and softer while I'm making my decisions, and I have more play time with my clay. So I like to scrape the water off my form, and I'm going to clean up my rim just a little bit, make sure my rim is nice and strong. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a rib, and I'm going to go ahead and knock my sides over, and actually I'm going to start all the way down here and bring it out just a little bit like so, and then going to knock this guy over. And I think that's about as far as I want to go. Well, my intention of this is, and I'm going to wait until it's leather hard, is I'm going to cut something like, well, I guess I've gone there. I'm going to cut something like this off of both sides. And of course I do this when it's leather hard. And then I'll cut a hole out of here. And of course that hole is going to be a lot nicer than what that line is. But I will cut a hole out here, and now I have a tray with two handles on the side. But all of this cutting should be done when it's leather hard. In fact, there's a, you know, might even want to erase those lines for now and start over again with those marks. Well, not really starting over with those marks, but
it's also a really nice plate.
Well,
I
yeah,
mean,
so
or a platter.
right. So this is the way I would start with a plate, but because this is handle week, or handle month rather, and we're trying to make everything with a handle, I'm going to be ending up cutting out most of my rim to make a platter with handles. There we go.